35 is the age when you're no longer allowed to be tired, yet you've never felt more exhausted. It arrives quietly, like a breeze brushing past your mind, and then staying, bring with it questions you never expected to ask. When you were younger, you believed effort was enough, that if you tried hard, you'd have it all. But then 35 comes and you realize not every effort is rewarded. Not every checkbox leads to peace. 35 is when you start to look around and notice the people who once walked beside you now seem far ahead. Stable careers, solid families, lives that appear put together. Meanwhile, you might still be juggling work, debt, and that vague emptiness you can't quite name. No one says you failed, but no one really asks if you're okay either. Because at this age, being okay is something you're expected to carry alone. You're not allowed to fall apart. Maybe you live in a nice apartment, have a steady job, a dream income, but still, you wake up each morning with a kind of tiredness that has no shape. Maybe you have a family now, a spouse, children, someone by your side, and yet you feel lonelier than you did when you were single. Or maybe you're still on your own, climbing the ladder step by step, and wonder why it all feels so empty, even when no one says you're doing anything wrong. 35 isn't 25. You don't have the same time to try and fail. But it's not 45 either. You're not yet ready to slow down and accept things as they are. It's the in-between, heavy and fragile at the same time. It's when you still dream, but no longer have many stumbles left to be forgiven. It's when you have to be strong, even when all you really want is to rest for a moment. The thing about turning 35 is, it's fair in the cruelest way. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, beautiful or ordinary, married or single. The exhaustion finds you. It just shows up in different forms. Those with families may feel suffocated by responsibility. Those who are single may feel hollow in long nights with no one to call. The wealthy wrestle with the pressure of keeping what they've built. Those still struggling just want the right to dream and can't even afford that. There's no one at 35 who hasn't whispered at least once, if only I could start over. If only I had chosen a different career. If only I hadn't rushed into marriage. If only I had been brave enough to live as my true self. But the truth is you can't go back. And that is what makes 35 so quiet, so heavy, and so terrifying. You begin to realize what you're carrying isn't just responsibility. It's the weight of society's expectations. A 35-year-old man without a stable career is labeled a failure. A 35-year-old woman who isn't married is called left behind. Even if you know these labels mean nothing, they still hurt because you're tired. Too tired to keep explaining who you are. Too tired to defend why you haven't made it. The truth is, no one is truly okay at 35. People have just gotten better at hiding it, or they simply no longer have time to sit with their sadness. But you still feel it, and that's not wrong. I'm fine. Two simple words, yet they may be the heaviest mask an adult ever wears. 35 is the age when most people around you seem to have figured out. Careers have foundations, marriages are settled, the kids have started school, the mortgage is almost paid off. But that's just the surface. It's what others see. And sometimes it's what they need to believe, that they're fine. You'll meet so many people like that. Maybe it's the cheerful coworker who smiles brightly every morning, but sometimes stares blankly out the window in the middle of meetings. Maybe it's the confident, successful boss who barely sleeps 3 hours a night and hasn't had a real conversation with family in months. Maybe it's an old friend, posting photos at luxury resorts one day, then calling you the next, sobbing, saying they no longer know what they're living for. And maybe it's you, the one reading these words, who knows exactly what it feels like to hold it together just to get through the day. It's not that you're pretending. It's that falling apart simply isn't an option anymore. You carry responsibilities. To aging parents who depend on you, to children who need you to be stable, to the version of yourself who has come too far to turn back now. You've outgrown the wildness of 25, outdreamed the optimism of 30, and now, at 35, you're doing everything you can to simply hold on to what you've built. There are nights you sit in front of your laptop, not because of work, but because you don't know what else to do to feel useful. There are mornings you wake up, not out of excitement, but because your body has grown used to being strong on command. You go to meetings, return home, cook, smile at your kids, reply to clients, then sit in silence, staring at the ceiling, not because you're deep in thought, but because you're too tired to think at all. You still call that fine, and people believe you. No one sees that after those cheerful conversations come sleepless nights filled with financial anxiety. No one knows that behind your "it's nothing really" is another moment you chose silence instead of asking for help. You don't complain. You don't cry in front of anyone, because you become everyone's safe place. And somewhere along the way, you forgot how to be someone else's. The worst part is looking back and asking, why do I feel so empty? You don't know what you want. You don't know what makes you happy. There are no specific dreams anymore. No clear goals. Just things you have to do. And a nameless fatigue that never seems to leave. But that's not weakness. That's proof that you've been strong for too long. So strong, in fact, that even the pain inside you gets silenced before it ever finds its voice. And if you're in that space right now, I hope you know you're not alone. There are millions walking the road of 35 with exhausted feet, quiet hearts, and searching eyes. They're not silent because they're fine. They're silent because they think they're not allowed to hurt anymore. But you are allowed. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to breathe, not just survive. You don't have to hold it together to be called strong. You just have to be real, so you can remember who you truly are. You're not a failure. You're just living at your own pace. But in a world that's racing toward the finish line, moving slower can make you feel left behind. At 35, social media becomes a magnifying glass for everything you don't have. You scroll through TikTok and see people making hundreds of thousands a month creating content. You open Facebook and see an old classmate showing off their brand new car. You glance at Instagram and watch a former coworker honeymooning in Europe. And suddenly, it feels like they're living while you're just surviving. It's not that you're jealous. It's not even that you want those exact things. But the feeling of being left behind, that creeping sense of falling behind, grows with every photo, every caption, every milestone. You start asking yourself, did I do something wrong? How is it they're successful, happy, wealthy, beautiful, while you're still trying your best just to stay afloat? So you start comparing. You compare salaries, engagement rings, body shapes, homes, parenting styles, promotion speed. And every time someone seems ahead, you shrink just a little more. You don't say it out loud. You don't even share it. But deep down, you know you're losing confidence in the person you used to be. Because at 35, failure no longer feels like a lesson for next time. It feels like something society labels as a problem. Worse, you begin to doubt the very things you once took pride in. You used to believe in kindness and honesty, but now you see the cunning rise faster. You used to believe a small, warm family was true happiness. But your friends tell you, the more independent, the better. You used to believe in slow and steady. But now, slow just feels like losing. So you start running, not because you know where you're going, but because you're afraid of falling further behind. You try to become like everyone else. You start changing to meet the standards of the crowd. You begin doing what you should instead of what you want. But the faster you run, the more drained you feel, because that isn't your race. And you weren't born to be someone else's version of success. So many people at 35 get trapped in this comparison game. They were once passionate, creative, full of vision. But after looking left, then right, then left again, They lost trust in their own path. And the most heartbreaking part, they no longer know what brings them joy. Because when you spend all your energy chasing someone else's timeline, you forget how to listen to your own voice. And that's when you lose the most precious thing, your identity. You may be slower than others. You may not have what they have, but that doesn't make you any less. Every person was born with their own journey, their own race, their own destination. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You just need to live in a way that never leaves yourself behind. And if it feels like no one understands this loneliness, please know, so many people do. They're tired too. They're doubting too. But they keep walking step by quiet step because they believe being true to yourself is the only race worth winning. There's a kind of exhaustion no one else can see, the kind that comes from being lonely inside your own home. At 35, not everyone is single. Many have families, children, stable jobs, a comfortable home, a life that, from the outside, looks complete. But behind that fullness is a quiet emptiness no one notices, a feeling of not being truly understood, a sense of living beside someone while your souls drift further apart. There are so many people, men and women alike, who return home every night, yet no longer feel like they've truly come home. They walk beside their spouse, but don't truly speak. They eat dinner together, but say nothing beyond the usual. How was your day? How's the kid doing in school? They sleep in the same bed, but in two separate worlds, backs turned, silence in between. No arguments, but no connection either. One person once said, "We've been living like roommates, not in love, not in hate, just surviving beside each other." Relationships like that may appear peaceful, but they're dead soil. And if we don't have the courage to look directly at them, we slowly lose ourselves. Loneliness doesn't always come from being alone. It comes from not being able to be yourself around the ones who are there. It comes from being tired, but unable to say it. From being hurt, but never heard. From needing a hug, but no one noticing. At 35, you might live in a full household, but no one truly asks, "How are you really?" Not because they don't care, but because they think you're fine. You still cook, still go to work, still help the kids with homework, still smile when guests come over. You're still the spouse, the parent, the provider, but you're no longer you. And so you begin to ask yourself, am I even needed in this relationship? Am I still someone worth loving? Or am I just fulfilling a role? Those questions don't come like thunder. They drip quietly, steadily, until they erode your heart. You may have believed that trying harder, being more patient, more giving, would close the distance. But the truth is, one person's effort is never enough to hold a relationship together. Love requires both sides. Connection doesn't come from being great at enduring. It comes from being heard, truly, openly. And then one day you realize you've never actually felt at home, even in the house you paid for. You feel misplaced at the dinner table, speechless during simple conversations, like a version of yourself is slowly fading away and no one notices. No one says that love or marriage is easy, but that doesn't mean you deserve to live like this. You don't deserve to trade the light inside you for a relationship that froze long ago. You don't deserve to keep pretending just to fit into a perfect family image, while inside, you're silently falling apart. 35 is when you realize just having someone next to you doesn't make you less lonely. Sometimes, the one beside you is exactly why you feel the loneliest. And you have the right to ask, am I truly living? Do I deserve to be loved the right way? Am I losing myself just because I'm afraid to start over? You don't have to answer those questions today. But please, don't ignore the signals coming from within, because when loneliness is buried too long, it becomes a quiet fracture, deep and invisible, that can leave you tired for the rest of your life. There's no such race called you must succeed before 35. There's no definition that says you have to be settled on schedule. Life isn't a linear plan with strict deadlines we all must meet. And yet somehow at 35, we tend to believe that it is. We start to feel like we're behind if we don't have a house yet, a spouse, a promotion. We feel the need to hide our exhaustion, to stay strong, to succeed, just so we won't disappoint anyone. But life doesn't judge you by your timeline. It only asks, are you still yourself? Stability isn't a destination. It's your ability to stay grounded in the middle of uncertainty. Success isn't measured by how many assets you own, but by whether you can still feel peace in your heart when failure visits. 35 is not a sentence. It's a threshold, a true beginning of maturity. It's when you stop chasing outside standards and start learning to look within. You don't need to be better than anyone else. You only need to be better than the person you were yesterday. You don't need to pretend to be fine. You only need to be honest enough to say, I'm tired, and I deserve to breathe. If you're 35 or have passed it, I hope you'll take a moment and ask yourself, what have I been living for? And have I truly been living for me? You don't need to answer right away, but don't forget the question. Don't let the rhythm of life pull you so far forward that you lose sight of why you began. Because when everything feels uncertain, the only thing that can keep you grounded is your why. Maybe you feel tired, not fast enough, not good enough, not enough. But the truth is, you are enough, enough to keep going, enough to carry things in silence, enough for others to lean on. You've just forgotten to see that, because you keep looking at everyone else. You don't need to move fast. You just need to move steady. You don't need to please anyone. Just don't betray yourself. You don't need a spectacular success, just a quiet kindness for what's left of your heart. 35 isn't wrong. It just doesn't sparkle like 20. It doesn't come with as many options as 25. But what it gives you instead is clarity. To tell what's real from what's temporary. To choose who to keep, what to do, and what values to live by. It teaches you that not everyone is meant to stay. Not every round of applause is sincere. And only you can know what truly makes you happy. If life feels heavy right now, you're allowed to rest. Resting isn't quitting. It's so you still have the strength to go on. If you feel lost, don't be afraid to come back to yourself. Sometimes, simply sitting down and saying, I'm not okay, is a first step toward finally being okay. You don't have to be strong forever. No one was born to carry everything alone. You're allowed to feel fragile, to feel confused, to need help. And that doesn't make you less. It makes you human. Put away the comparisons. Put down the borrowed expectations. Let go of the self-blame. And hold on to one thing only, kindness to yourself. If you're still breathing, you still have a chance. If you still feel your exhaustion, it means your heart is still alive. And if you still want to heal, then you're already on the right path, no matter how slow it feels. We don't have to reach high. Sometimes, just not letting go is already a miracle. So live a little slower. Understand yourself a little deeper. Forgive yourself a little more. Because in the end, you're not here to win. You're here to live fully. Whether you're living in a full house or quietly carrying your own solitude, whether you achieve certain milestones or are still finding your way, please remember this. 35 is not a deadline. It's an opportunity. An opportunity to return to yourself, to begin a journey of living not for others' expectations, but out of respect for your own being. The pressure is real, but so is your power to choose how you face it, with kindness, with courage, and with a slower, steadier heart. You've come this far. Give yourself a hug, a moment of recognition, a little forgiveness. And if this video touched something in you, leave a comment below. What makes you feel the most alone at 35? Or simply, what would you say to yourself at this age? Because maybe one small line you share could help someone else realize they're not alone. Thank you for listening all the way to the very end. Thank you for being here, even if you're carrying your own quiet exhaustion. If this video brought you any comfort or meaning, please consider leaving a comment, a like, or subscribing, so you won't miss the next healing moment we share. Every share from you is an extended hand, helping kindness travel even farther. There's still so much we have to tell each other.